G'day everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel, and this will be the final round of home and away tipping. We're going to be going through my round 23 AFL tips and predictions and what a round we do have in store for us. Of course, we will quickly review round 22, and for a lot of people this is quite an easy round to tip. I tipped a really good score of 8 out of 9 and could have gotten easily 9 out of 9 as well, and I was in the top 18%. So again, I climbed a few more ranks, which is good to finish the season in a positive. The Friday night game, I tipped the Lions. I actually tipped them quite close. I was only off by 1 point. I tipped them by 14 points and I was only off by 1. They won by 15. And of course, we all know what happened in that game, but I will obviously cover that game a bit later on in the video. Got the Bulldogs correct against the Giants, the Crows against the Roos, the Cats, they demolished the Suns, the D's, they just held on against the Blues late. What a game that was. The Dockers, bit of a weird game that was, but they got the job done over the Eagles. The Tigers completely smashed the Hawks. A little bit annoyed about this one. A few laid outs though for the Pies. I probably should have changed to the Swans, but I just felt like Pies could have done it again. Go for 12 in a row, but they didn't. And then Port Adelaide completely obliterated Essendon. I thought the Power were going to win by a bit, but I didn't think they'd win by this much. That is a complete annihilation. And very, very embarrassing for the Bombers, that is for sure. Yeah, 8 out of 9 for the tips. Not too bad at all to finish off the season on a positive. Again, I didn't get 3 out of 9, but I was quite close actually. I got 2 out of 9. The 2 that I got correct were in the Derby. I predicted that the Dockers would have 13 or more scoring shots than the Eagles. And in the Port v Essendon game, I predicted that the Power would win any quarter by 30 or more. And I think they did that twice actually, the Power. So shall I get an extra point for the big calls? Nah, that's not how it works. So only 2 out of 9, which means I have to go to the punishments again. And this could be the most juicy punishment that I've ever had to do. Because I set a rule last week that if a certain comment gets the most likes by a substantial amount, I'll just pick that one without doing the wheel. And we have a look at the tips video real quick. Flaggy third, punishment of shaving your hair with 174 likes completely obliterates the next best comment. So I do need a haircut, but I don't necessarily want to be shaving my hair. So thanks to the Power Editing, next time you see me, my head will be completely shaved. Well, there we go. I've gone on and done it. I've shaved my head. Probably the craziest thing I've had to do for a tipping punishment. But of course, for anyone wondering, the hair's obviously going to grow back, so it's not like it's the end of the world or anything like that. But anyways, let's get right into the tips. Obviously, this is the last home and away round of footy before finals. In the first game on the Friday night, we've got a huge one. It's going to definitely shape up the top 4. Huge ramifications for the loser. We've got the Lions taking on the D's at the Gabba Friday night. I'll be streaming this one, and the loser of this game almost certainly misses out on the top 4 unless Collingwood and Freo lose, but you don't think that's going to happen, to be honest. So yeah, the Lions take on the D's. Very even contest this one. The Lions on the weekend, they got the job done against the Saints. I didn't think they were that good, to be honest. It was just sort of the Saints that lost that game, to be honest. If we watch that, the Saints should have won that, particularly in that last quarter with all those shots, but the Lions, they took them. I guess the Lions were decent in the first half, and in the last quarter, I guess Rayner kicked 3. Just took their chances. It was as simple as that, unfortunately, for the Lions, who, people are saying they've been shaky as of late, but they've won 4 of their last 5, I think. So it's not bad form heading into finals, but again, we all know their form interstate isn't great. But at the Gabba, it's pretty good, to be honest. And the D's, well, they found a way to win. Cozzy Pickett kicking the match winner in the game, where I thought the Blues were almost better. The Blues definitely took it up to the D's all game. Definitely wanted the win. D's, they stole it from the jaws of defeat. They absolutely stole the game. They pinched it from Carlton, which is heartbreak for them. But the D's definitely needed that win to keep their top 4 aspirations alive. And yeah, it's going to just shape up for an even bigger clash, that's for sure. I'll be streaming this one. And it is a tough game to tip, to be honest, but only due to the fact that it is at the Gabba, and the Lions have only lost once there, and that was against Essendon when they fielded a VFL side. I'm going to go the Lions this one by 10. And my big call for this one will be that both sides score over 100 points. We head to the Saturday games, and the first of the lot is between the Giants and the Dockers in Canberra. You've got the Dockers playing for a top 4 spot. The Giants really not playing for much. They can't even escape the bottom 4, so yeah, so just want the season to end, to be honest. The Dockers on the weekend played their arch rivals in the Eagles, and they got a pretty good win. Well, it wasn't the greatest win, but they dominated the game, to be honest. 14 more scoring shots. They probably should have won it by more. They only won it by 24, but a win's a win. They just needed to get the win. It really didn't matter how, because of their percentage. It doesn't matter since they've got the draw. And yeah, they're not going to fall any lower than 6, but a top 4 spot's still up for grabs for Freo. And GWS, well, they almost beat the Dogs, to be honest, but I wasn't really a fan of how they came out and played the game, and they were just trying to play territory football. According to Blaze, I was at the game, but in the second quarter, apparently the Giants in the first 5 minutes, all they did was kick it to their plays. Just chip mark, just gain possession, gain territory. It just sounded like it was the most boring start to a game of footy ever. And you're sort of lucky I missed that first quarter. But the Giants, even though they played like that and took, I think, a record total of marks, they still played decent footy, to be honest. And they matched it with the Dogs at times and almost got the win. But yeah, luckily for the Dogs, they didn't, because they still, it's a chance of finals, obviously, the Dogs. So in this game, I can't really see the Dockers losing this with how much is on the line. And, you know, the Giants, they've just been pretty average all year. I don't think I've beaten a top 8 side all season that I can remember. So, yeah, because of that, I'm going to go the Dockers to win this one in a comfortable affair by 22 points. My big call that both teams combined for under 125 points. The next game of the round, we've got North Melbourne taking on Gold Coast at Marvel Stadium. This one's a bit of a dead rubber. I guess not really for North, you know. They could potentially avoid the wooden spoon if they win this one. There's a slight chance they can get it done. I mean, they were decent against the Crows on the weekend. Matched them for 3 quarters, dropped off late. Very, very good to see Ben Cunnington return on the football field after battling with testicular cancer. That was very heartwarming to see. And it was just good to see him back out and playing some footy. And it wouldn't shock me if the Kangas faithful, you know, want to get the win for him in this game. I mean, there's nothing to play for. It's the last game for the season for North Melbourne. So, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if that was the case. The Suns, well, they were taught quite a valuable lesson on the weekend. Completely got destroyed against the Cats from really the first quarter. They lost by 60 points on their home deck, which is a venue that they normally play quite well in. And it's a little bit of a reoccurring theme for Gold Coast every year. They start off the season all right, but they always fade. There were always end-of-season fade-offs for the Suns, and it's looking like it might be happening again. 4 of their last 5 games have been losses. They've got a percentage now of under 100. But I think they can change it around with a win in this one. I know North could still win this game. It's a very winnable game for them, but surely the Suns can't lose this one. They've still got a bit to play for Gold Coast for a little bit of pride to finish off their season. So I'm going to go the Suns to win this one by 25 points with my big call. Luke Davis-Uniacke has 115 or more fantasy points to just continue his impressive run. We head to the GMHBA Stadium for the next game of the round between Geelong and West Coast, and this just looms like an 100-point smashing again for West Coast. It's their least favourite ground to play at. Obviously, last year they got done there by 90-plus points in 2 games, and you know, the Cats are now a better side this year, and the Eagles are a worse side this year, so it doesn't make it any better, unfortunately, for West Coast. I mean, yeah, this could honestly be an absolute thumping. Unfortunately, the Cats, of course, they just continue their winning ways. They're now clear and above on top of the ladder with percentage and 2 games clear on top, winning their 12th game in a row against the Suns, which was, pretty comprehensive victory, to be honest. From the first bounce, they just did it what they needed to do from 4 quarters of footy and got the job done by 60 points. West Coast, I guess, weren't disgraced on the scoreboard against the Dockers in the Derby. I didn't really watch the game, but definitely you could tell that the Dockers were the better side, clearly the better side. It's just that they were a bit inaccurate. They could have won the game by a bit more, the Dockers, but the Eagles, I guess, their scoreline looked a bit respectable on their behalf, but unfortunately, I don't think the scoreboard's going to look very respectable in this game. The Cats are probably going to put a number on them, even though they don't have Cameron. He's out for a few weeks. I still don't think it should really matter. I think the Cats should be way too strong and probably win this game by 80-plus points. And I'm going to tip them to win by 100 points. Not normally I do that, but this is one of the few games that I can probably see it happening. So Geelong to win it by 103 points. My big call, Geelong score 145 points or more. We head to the Saturday games, and the first of the 2 being between the Bombers and the Tigers at the MCG. Now, if only the Tigers lost against the Hawks last week, this would have been a little bit more of an interesting game. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and the Tigers have already locked in a top 8 spot. And the Bombers, well, how poor were they on the weekend? I know there was really nothing to play for, but they could have played for a little bit of pride. They could have played for their coach. They just gave up, especially in the last quarter. It was one of the worst quarters of footy I've seen a side play this season. They got done by 84 against the struggling Port outfit, who've only won 9 games himself this season. So, yeah, it's just an unfortunate display for the Bombers. They were definitely disgraced. The Tigers weren't, though. They dominated the contest against the Hawks. They kicked 15 goals in the first and third quarters combined. Tom Lynch kicked 8. It was just a complete domination from the Tigers. And tell you what, once they're on, they can be a very scary side heading into September. And I tell you what, you wouldn't really want to be facing the Tigers if you're playing them in the finals, particularly when you got Dustin Martin to come back to add another string to their bow. I tell you what, Richmond is going to be a pretty scary side come finals time, and they're a side that could potentially make it to the prelims, or if they're good enough, maybe for the granny. We've seen it happen before. But yeah, I can't see Essendon winning this game, unfortunately, even though their form, well, it's dropped off, but they have been able to beat the top 8 sides. Unfortunately, though, the Bombers in this one, I can't see it happening. The Tigers are just too good a form. They'll definitely win this one, in my opinion, by 35 points, I reckon. A big call in this one with that Bolton and Lynch combined for 12 or more scoring shots. In the last game on the Saturday, we've got Port Adelaide taking on Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval. We've got the showdown, and this could be a pretty entertaining showdown, to be honest. You've only got one win separating these two clubs, and if the Power lost on the weekend, the winner of this showdown would be on top of the other team in the ladder. So there would have been a bit more to play for. Still, there's a little bit to play for always in a showdown, even if the two sides can't make the finals. You always want to beat your arch nemesis, and I mean, the Adelaide Crows got it done earlier this season, and I guess it could happen again. But the Power, they're in some pretty good form. I know they've lost their last 4, but very, very comprehensive win against the Bombers on the weekend. They won by 84. But was it so much about how good the Power were, or was it how poor the Bombers performed? Probably more on the Bombers, to be honest. But the Power still played very good footy. Finn Layson was the star player in that game. And yeah, they're going to give themselves a good chance here against the Crows. That you would expect them to get the job done. The Crows, though, they're never an easy beat, especially at the Adelaide Oval. And with the last 3 wins now, the Crows, they could finish the season on a high with 4 in a row. It's going to be quite an entertaining contest, but you would just think, on paper, the Power get the job done, and I want to go the safe tip anyway to have a chance at maybe getting 9 out of 9. So if I'm going to go the safe tip, you're probably going to have to go the Power, and I think the Power get it done in a fairly entertaining contest by 14 points. A big call, a bit of a strange one. The winning team only wins 1 quarter throughout the whole game. We head to the final day of the home and away season, the most important day, you could argue, and this is the Sunday, with many games shaping up the top 4 and the top 8. We start off with the Hawks taking on the Dogs at UTAS. This game definitely shaping at the top 8. The equation in this one is quite simple for the Bulldogs. They win this game to keep their finals hopes alive, but they probably want to win this one fairly comfortably, because if they win it by a little bit, the Blues can still afford to lose, but can still maybe scrape in the final. So it's a bit of a strange one when you look at the percentages. But yeah, this game's going to be a huge one between the Hawks and the Dogs. The Dogs weren't really that good, I don't think, against the Giants. And even if they make the finals, they'll only really be making up the numbers. This year they've been quite average. And again, they were average against the Giants. I thought they would honestly dominate the contest. They only just scraped past the Giants, who aren't a great side, and they only had really one good quarter, the Dogs, where they kicked 4 or 5 in a row. Now, I'm not too sure if the Dogs are actually going to win this game. I know the Hawks haven't been great in the past couple of weeks, and last week, again, they got done by the Tigers in quite convincing fashion, unfortunately for their sakes. But I still think at UTAS, last year in the similar fixture, when the Dogs had actually something to play for a top 4 spot, they didn't get the job done. I think something similar might happen. The Hawks normally play alright against the Dogs, and for some reason I just sense an upset occurring in this one. So Hawthorn for mine, to win it by 11 and to kick the Dogs out of the race for the top 8. My big call in this game, we bet that the Hawks kick 4 of the first 5 goals of the game. Now we head to arguably the most important game of the round, the biggest game, you've got to say, between the Blues and the Pies. I can't recall the last Carlton v Collingwood game that was as important as this game is set to be. I mean, it's just so important. I mean, the Blues, they need to win this game to make the top 8. The Pies need to win this game to make the top 4. The odds are $1.90 a piece. You can't split these two sides. It's just going to be such an enthralling contest. Of course, the Blues were heartbroken on the weekend. Probably should have got the win against the D's in the last few seconds. Yeah, it was disappointing for them. They really should be already locked in the 8 and making finals, but they still potentially might fall out if they lose this game. Of course, Collingwood, they got their first loss in quite a while against the Swans, their first loss in 12 games. And I'd almost say it's a good thing that the Pies lost, because then they don't have that added pressure of having to continue their win streak. So I feel like it's not all doom and gloom for Collingwood. Definitely not all doom and gloom. They're going very well, that's for sure. But I still think in this game, the Blues get it done. They found a way, or almost found a way last week against the D's, but they took it up to a very, very good side in the D's. And I still think the D's are a better side than the Pies. So because of that, Carlton will know what's on the line. I don't think they'll lose this game. And even if they do lose it, I think they're still going to make the finals regardless, because I did tip the Hawks. So the Blues to win this game in a very good contest by 9 points. My big call is that there will be 9 or more lead changes throughout the game. And of course, the final game of the home and away season, we've got St Kilda taking on the Sydney Swans at Marvel Stadium. Unfortunately, the Saints' final chances are all but gone. We need almost a miracle to occur for us to make the finals, but I think there's a better chance of a meteorite striking us in the next couple of weeks, to be honest. We just lost in the most St Kilda way possible on the weekend. Goal kicking was the issue in that one. Max King, we all know what happened there. Even Memory with a couple of late misses in the last quarter, and unfortunately the Lions just took their chances. So another season where we're not going to make finals is such a disappointment for Saints fans. Unfortunately, in Sydney, they win this game and they're in the top 4. And they can probably make the top 2 actually if they win this, especially if they win by a decent enough margin, which probably is going to happen when they're playing against the Saints. I think the Saints, we might actually be alright. We might actually play alright when there's no pressure. It's unfortunate the way we go about it. We just crack under pressure. But the Swans, they're going to have more to play for, even though I think the Saints are going to take it up to them. And I think the Swans do win this game. I'll be shocked if they don't. And they'll win it by 8 points. But my big call will be that the Saints lead at 3/4 time. So those are my tips for round 23, the last game of the home and away season. We've got the Lions, the Dockers, the Suns, the Cats, the Tigers, the Power, the Hawks, and probably the only upset, the Blues, and then we got the Swans to finish off the round. And we head to the people who got a perfect score in round 22, and we had quite a few. It was a fairly easy round to tip, to be honest. We had 4 people to get a perfect score and a perfect margin. We had Hitchy 97, Platinum, Joan, and Rondongle. But look at all these people. There's too many people to name, but the rule is I've got to show and shout out, I guess, everyone. So scroll through. We had Geordie to get a perfect score as well. And we're still going. How many people actually ended up getting a perfect score? We had 131. Jesus. Ross Macker, that's his second 9 out of 9 performance this year, which is not bad at all. We head to the total scores, and look at that. Nick Dake's official has gone down a bit. He's still at the top, but Lion Boldo with a perfect score has jumped up. And they're both on 171 points. Obviously, Dockers Army on 169, Buck for Life 167, Kebab King 166, and then all these other people on 166. So anyways, guys, those were my tips and predictions. Of course, it was quite an eventful video with the fact that I had to shave my hair, so give it a like for that sake as well. And if you're new, subscribe to the channel because we are on the road to 25k subs. But yeah, cheers everyone for watching the video. We will see you soon in my next one.